Story 1. Silence doesn't bother me at all. I don't see it as awkward. Sometimes quiet moments are the most relaxing part of being with someone. Story 2. Just because I'm not doing anything doesn't mean I'm free. I plan to do nothing. I hate when people say, "Are you doing anything?" No? Then come to this thing, followed by, "Why not?" Story 3. Being an introvert does not mean you are antisocial. It means you prefer a different balance between socializing and private time than extroverts do. Story 4. When I say I need time alone to recharge, I mean it. I become increasingly disengaged from people around me until I get that time. It is not a choice. It is like trying to keep your head up in class after pulling an all-nighter. You know you should be paying attention, but you simply cannot. Story 5. I'm not private. It just doesn't occur to me to share every thought I have. Story 6. We want to be invited. We don't want to be forced to engage. We want to be with the group and we'll talk, but we don't want to be pulled into the conversation. Story 7. It's not that I don't love them. I usually run out of conversational steam after about 15 minutes unless we find a shared passion, and doing different things in the same space is rewarding for me. Story 8. You're quiet. No, I just don't talk unless I have something to say. Story 9. Introversion does not mean being antisocial, shy, or reclusive. Although introverted people can also be those things, it comes down to this. I can and I like to socialize, but I get drained more quickly and need more time to recharge than you might. I will go to a house party, but I might slip away to a quiet room after an hour, spend some time with the pet, or leave a bit earlier than most. I had a good time. I would not have stayed otherwise. Story 10. There is a difference between social anxiety and simply not wanting to socialize. Sometimes I just want to stay home and read a book instead of going to a party. That does not mean I am anxious about being around many people. It means I would rather cuddle my cat. Story 11. Being alone does not mean I am lonely or sad. In fact, I was doing just fine before you showed up. Story 12. Why can't extroverts be forced to be more introverted instead of the other way around? Story 13. We enjoy being alone because it recharges us, whereas extroverts are energized by socializing with others. Story 14. I am not bored. Just because I am not spewing everything that comes to mind does not mean I am not having a good time. Story 15. It's not that I don't know how to speak. I can speak at length, but we must have known each other for at least 40 years. Story 16. I am not bored when I am just sitting at home. I am not lonely even though I am alone. Story 17. When you also suffer from conditions like anxiety and depression, the cost and energy to engage in socialization can be crippling. Story 18. We want to be asked to participate, feeling included while also having the space to say no. Story 19. Do not expect any calls or messages, man. We like to disappear when we get home. Story 20. I can sit by myself, listen to music, and journal with no issues. I am my own best company, and I can be on my own for weeks without forcing myself to interact. I work in a very social job, so I value my alone time at the end of the day. I journal for between 30 minutes and an hour to be a solid parent to my kids and to take care of my home. Story 21. I'm never bored. When nothing is going on around me, my brain is what I like to call spider webbing ideas. Past and future conversations, things I need to do, things I have done, things I want to do, and why things are the way they are. Story 22. I'm not shy. I don't dislike social events. I actually go to quite a few of them and join in. Story 23. I like hanging out and doing things, but I do not want to stay as long as you because I tire easily and need more time alone to recharge. Many introverts do not realize that being a social and being introverted are not the same thing. Story 24. You're shy or insecure? Not really. Many introverts are confident. We just don't feel the need to talk nonstop. Story 25. The things you like that energize you are not enjoyable for me. They are stressful and grating. That is okay. We do not have to enjoy the same things. You do you. I will go home alone and content, and the world will keep turning. I think the negative reaction comes because this forces extroverts to self-reflect. From my experience in a family of extroverts, Self-reflection is not a safe place for them. Extroversion makes self-awareness harder to attain, and when it appears in social interaction, the reaction is usually negative and then projected onto the person who instigated the self-reflection. Story 26. It is not you. I am quiet and reserved with everyone. Story 27. I can be outgoing, charismatic, and charming. It is just exhausting. Story 28. It's not a diagnosis or something that needs fixing. We do not need you to pull us out of our shells or drag us onto dance floors. We are perfectly content quietly reading and staying in the shadows. We have hobbies and interests that tend to be more solitary. That does not mean we are secretly miserable or do not enjoy life. It does not necessarily mean we hate people or social activities. It means we cannot be as interactive for as long because socializing drains our battery rather than charges it. I enjoy being around fun, kind people, but I may need to leave early to recharge and rest, especially if the group is very loud and boisterous. We are quieter in social settings not because we are shy or insecure, but because we enjoy observing, listening, and thinking rather than immediately voicing every thought. We can be talkative too, usually when we discuss a subject that sparks passion. Even other introverts can misunderstand introversion and assume we are asocial or antisocial and find everyone annoying. That is inaccurate. Introversion is not social anxiety. Introverts can have social anxiety, but they are not the same. Extroverts can also have social anxiety. Please do not ask us why we are so quiet. It is rude. Would you like it if someone uninvited asked you why you talk so much? Edit. Also, just curious, why did this receive downvotes? Story 29. Being called mean or snobby when I actually just don't give a fuck. Camaraderie isn't a high priority for me. Story 30. I do not think they realize my home is my sanctuary. I have anxiety, and quiet brings me peace. At the same time, I am extroverted and friendly at work. Story 31. We are not broken extroverts. Extroverts are energy vampires, wielding their extroversion the way religious people wield faith. I would much rather be alone with the circus in my head than lonely in a room full of people competing to occupy the most space, barely waiting for another to stop talking so they can speak louder. Story 32. When I was younger, people told me to come out of my shell and be more confident. I used to think that I liked being quiet and would speak only when necessary. Just watch me on the sports field. Later, after Trevor, Scott, Darren, Jeff, Wally, Troy, and Christine, all life of the party extroverts, took their own lives, and after seeing other extroverts quietly sob after a small amount of alcohol, I realized that, by and large, introverts generally have better self-confidence. That is what I wish the obnoxious extroverts would understand about introverts. Story 33. I am not depressed. Introversion is more acceptable now, but when I was younger it was seen as something to fix so I would be happy, because happiness was equated with doing things. I am not avoiding you or indifferent because I do not talk or text every day for long periods. A close friend ended the friendship when I stopped engaging daily. It wore me down, so I pulled back. That person interpreted it as me not being a good friend. I had explained that this was due to my introversion and my need to decompress, and it was not a reflection of my love for them. Story 34. I find that other people being in the house drains my energy, even if I am not interacting with them. Alone time is the only thing that helps. It is a genuine need. Story 35. Sometimes I just need to leave the room and be alone to collect my thoughts for a bit. I am not trying to be rude and I am not ignoring you or trying to send a subtle message. Story 36. In my case, it has nothing to do with shyness, lacking social skills, or a low social battery, as I read here most of the time. It is more the sense of conversations becoming sickeningly, unbearably irrelevant. I can't even explain how hard it becomes to follow trivial conversations, especially when people talk about the lives of others. I suddenly become extremely bored and roll my eyes, and I need to leave to be with someone else or to be alone. That is when people call you an introvert. Story 37. I'm not rude because I do not want to answer your unexpected phone call. It is even worse if it is a video call. Many introverts also suffer from anxiety, so we treat unannounced calls as emergencies that require immediate attention. If I make plans to hang out or go somewhere with you and you suddenly include other people, it feels like a slap in the face. I value my alone time, so if I plan to spend it with you, it feels disrespectful to assume others are equally entitled. Story 38. I am not avoiding you. I need time to recharge before I can be myself again. Otherwise, I become irritable and antisocial, and you will be more upset. Story 39. They assume I'm meek and will just go along with whatever. In reality, I'm very opinionated and can definitely argue if needed. I shocked a lot of people at my old school with that. Story 40. If you talk, I let things click in my head. I notice what you do not say, your body language, your tone, where you look when you talk about different subjects, and how that makes you feel. In groups of 1 to 4 people this works. It does not work with larger groups, which is why I go quiet. Also, I discovered this last week. We do not date to meet new people. Why would I meet new people through dating? That makes no sense. Story 41. I wish you no harm nor ill will. I simply do not want to talk to you. Story 42. Just because we do not initiate conversation does not mean we have nothing to say or are uninterested in talking. Story 43. But I am not some delicate flower that requires a user's manual. Story 44. I am not shy. I do not have social anxiety or any trouble speaking in public or before large groups. I can be on when I have to be, but it exhausts me. Story 45. That I'm not missing out when I choose to stay home rather than go out. I actually like my own company. Story 46. A common misconception is that introversion is the same as shyness. Shy people want to be invited to social events. Introverts often prefer solitude. Another misconception is that introverts are cold, callous, or flaky because they do not like to follow others or join the group. Story 47. They believe I am shy. I do not know how to tell them that I simply do not want to talk to them. They think I want to talk but do not know how, and I cannot understand how they can be so unaware. Story 48. I want to do things with you. Please keep inviting me, even if I have said no the last few times. Story 49. I never want to go out or attend a party more than I want to stay home with my 2 pups. When I do go out, it is because I forced myself. I am skilled at small talk and can be extremely charming, but I will always prefer spending time with my dogs at home. Just because I can does not mean I want to, but I am mature enough to know that sometimes I have to. Story 50. No, I am not joining your 10th grade picture with all the girls in it. Some of you I have never spoken to. From kindergarten through 10th grade, I was not interested in what you were doing, so I kept my distance and did my own thing in peace. None of you who forced me into that picture will be welcomed into my rich inner world. And none of you have the peace that I do. Goodbye. Story 51. I like people but do not want to be around many of them. Story 52. I love a good conversation one-on-one when both people ask questions of each other. 3 or more people, except for my 2 best friends, will drain my social battery quickly. I am not interested in listening for hours to make you feel better without getting a little in return. Story 53. The fact that I like to sit alone and read in peace does not mean I am lonely or pitiable or that others are excluding me. Story 54. You just need to come out of your shell. Being in your presence is already draining. Story 55. Staying at home rather than going to a party is boring. Story 56. When I say I have to go, that does not mean keep talking for another 30 minutes. Story 57. I do not want to be invited or included. Give me the chance to have a lot of anxiety as I debate whether I will go until I ultimately decide at the last minute. Not this time, definitely next time. Do not rob me of that experience. Story 58. Introversion is not the same as shyness. I simply enjoy my solitude. Story 59. I may seem shy, but I have noticed everything you have done since you entered the room. I notice things you do not. I care how you treat others. I am quick to judge, though not intentionally. Story 60. I want to talk to everybody I come across, but most of the time I do not. I am not depressed. I just like being by myself. If I talk to you, it is because I like you and think you are cool. If I enjoy talking to you, I will open up, and people I talk to say I am a great conversationalist. Story 61. I am quiet not because I am shy, but because I have nothing to say or I am not interested in the topic. Story 62. In my experience, explaining to extroverts that my choosing not to spend time with them has nothing to do with their character falls on deaf ears. They ask, "What, you too cool to hang out with us?" I simply do not want people around me unless they are my partner. It has nothing to do with who they are. Outside of romantic relationships, nothing appeals to me more than peace, quiet, and doing what I want when I want. Story 63. My mother passed away in April, and it was very difficult for me because we were so close. People told me I needed to get out and socialize, but I did not need that. I needed to withdraw and retreat into myself. Others like to talk things out. It is my way of healing and grieving. When others try to comfort me, although I appreciate the thoughtfulness, it is not how I process. I have always been very sensitive, so being alone helps me regulate my emotions until I can process the pain and loss. Story 64. Being alone isn't loneliness. It's how we recharge. Silence can be peaceful, not awkward. Story 65. I'm not shy and I don't need help. I just find it exhausting to socialize with groups and people I don't know. Story 66. When I say I need a minute, I mean it. Please go away for at least a minute. Story 67. Why I do not talk much or simply ghost uncomfortable situations. Story 68. I am quiet. Weird, right? To explain, I observe and remain silent when I am in an unfamiliar environment or around unfamiliar people. If I am with people or somewhere I am comfortable, I am more talkative and relaxed. I have never been a conversationalist, but there is a stark difference between how I act in a store when I am alone and when I am with my loved ones. Story 69. I do not need to come out of my shell. That is a serious misunderstanding of who I am. Story 70. I was at a public dance. The organizers announced a spotlight dance. Partygoers were to get on the dance floor and a spotlight would stop on a random dancing couple who would win a prize. I was not there alone, but for the spotlight dance I was leaning against a wall, alone, watching the crowd, content. Suddenly a bright light shone on my face. I was chosen for the spotlight. I had been a wallflower minding my own business. I realized they chose me because I was standing alone while everyone else danced. They must have taken pity on me. All eyes were on me. The music stopped. I wanted to say I was not sad or lonely, just enjoying a quiet moment. I told them I was not dancing and could not accept the prize. They made it worse by coaxing me on stage to take it. People clapped as I approached the stage. Never shine an intrusive spotlight on an introvert. If someone is standing alone by a wall, leave them be. If you are an extrovert, understand that standing alone is not uncomfortable for everyone. We are fine alone and will come to chat when we are ready. Story 71. They think I am depressed when I just want to be left alone. Story 72. I can understand how introversion can come across as disinterest. I do value time with my extroverted friends, but I cannot do what they do at their level or for as long. My brain simply does not work that way as much as I would like it to. Story 73. Most of us do not care about the petty, childish high school judgments extroverts label us with. We just want to be left alone. Calling us mean, standoffish, stuck up, not a team player, or saying you think you are better than us will not change that. We do not want to talk to them or hang out with them. We do not care about their cluttered, loud lives, their kids, or what crowded, nightmarish event is coming up. We are not going. Stop asking. For example, come out with us on New Year's Eve. Being pressed in on all sides by strangers in a crowded place? No effing way. We do not envy them at all. Story 74. It's less about saying I love spending time alone and more about needing time alone to recharge. Story 75. I actually love talking to people, but only those I genuinely connect with. Story 76. Being an introvert doesn't mean I'm incapable of interacting normally with other people. It means I find it exhausting. I can go to the holiday party and cheerfully interact with lots of people while listening to music and 14 other conversations, but that sounds like a circle of hell I'd rather not experience. Story 77. When I am quiet, They assume I am mad at them. That accusation makes me angry. It feels like they are trying to make me feel guilty for not giving them attention all the time. Story 78. I can turn it on for a party or a large social function. I will be charming, funny, and polite, but I need advance notice to prepare, and I need a full day to recharge afterward. My husband is extroverted and always suggests last-minute get-togethers. Even if I would enjoy an event, I am not up to it unless I know far enough in advance. Same-day plans are only okay if it is just the two of us. I cannot meet other people on short notice. A hike is fine. A double date with his friend and his wife is not, unless I have at least 12 hours notice. Story 79. Just because I don't talk doesn't mean I'm not listening. I hear all your juicy gossip and I will tell a few close friends later. Story 80. When my social battery is empty, I'm going home. My ex threw a tantrum because I did not want to keep hanging out with him and his friends. I said I was tired and wanted to go home, but he kept trying to convince me to stay and go to Taco Bell. He took that as a personal attack. Story 81. There's a vast difference between isolating because I specifically want to and isolating because I don't think I actually have it in me to attend a social function. You will not know which is happening unless you find out, which means interrupting my isolation. I'm beginning to realize that I'm the human equivalent of a cat. Story 82. You do not need to talk all of the time, and neither do I. What bothers me is the constant noise people feel compelled to make, not the people themselves. Story 83. I'm not a quiet guy. I just don't share your interests. Story 84. They tend to misinterpret loneliness versus solitude. They are not the same. Introverts often need to be on their own to recalibrate and find peace. This is a superpower. Story 85. Just because I find big social gatherings tiring doesn't mean I don't enjoy them. I just tap out earlier. Story 86. I am not shy. I am just not going to speak unless I actually have something to say. Story 87. That silence means we are awkward, not that we are peacefully recharging like a phone at 3%. Story 88. Despite being quiet, I am having a good time. Sometimes I just like to listen. Story 89. They say we are boring. We don't talk because we don't want to, not because we have nothing to say. Story 90. When I act like an extrovert, that is just acting and it is extremely mentally exhausting. Story 91. I'm not shy or socially awkward. I'm actually charismatic and witty, but I've used too much of it and I'm tired. Just because I'm sitting quietly doesn't mean I'm not having fun. I'm just vibing. Story 92. If the conversation is mediocre and unintelligent, I do not have anything to talk about. Story 93. Assuming something is wrong with you, or that you are stuck up, standoffish, or mean as if you should just chill, they take it personally. Story 94. I am not being rude. I do not have anything to say and do not want to make small talk. Story 95. It's not that I'm grumpy. I give short answers to small talk questions because I do not want to engage. I care about my friends. I do not care about the minutiae of their lives any more than they care about mine. Story 96. This thread reminded me of the time I went to a friend's birthday party and some people were dancing. A group of women started mingling with our group, and I was one of the few who just wanted to sit for a bit because my social battery was low after moving from venue to venue all day. One woman I did not know grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the dance floor. I kept saying, "No thanks, I'm good." And she kept saying, "Come on." After a bit more back and forth, I said sternly, "I don't want to dance." She gave me a dirty look and walked away as if I were the problem. Nobody has to dance or party hard, and that does not make them wrong or strange. Story 97. It's not that I hate people. I just prefer my human interactions in small doses. Story 98. I am never safer and more at ease than when I am alone. Anything else requires energy and effort. Story 99. Introversion, shyness, social anxiety, and awkwardness are four separate things. Being around people for too long is exhausting, but I'm good at it. That's why it's my job. This does not mean I'm lying about being an introvert. Story 100. That introversion is seen as a weakness that needs to be called out. I have had to explain it to people who say, "You're so quiet." Imagine you, the extrovert, are at home alone and feeling your energy drain because of a lack of human contact. Now imagine an introvert messages you saying, "Why are you so sociable?" and then goes quiet. That is how it feels. Story 101, you're so fucking rude. No, I'm just so scared to speak. If I try to say hi, it physically won't come out, so I avoid eye contact and sit out of the way. Story 102. The main issue for me is missing valuable time with family. I know I will have many regrets later in life, and the thought alone puts me in a tailspin. Story 103. I am an introvert, not socially anxious or shy. Being around people drains my energy rather than energizes me, even when I am having a lot of fun with you. Story 104. Just because an introvert isn't constantly talking, doesn't mean they're bored. Story 105. I have quite a bit to say, but I often feel the listener is not worth the bandwidth, so I do not share it. Story 106. Dreading going somewhere or doing something you know you will ultimately enjoy. Story 107. It's not an awkward silence if I'm not in an active conversation with you. I'm just taking in the moment and observing. Story 108. Not being loud or the life of the party does not mean I have no personality. Story 109. Just because I mention in conversation that I am attending a function alone does not mean I am inviting company. So many people have invited themselves that I have learned to keep my plans to myself when I want to do something solo. Story 110. I seem outgoing because I am talkative and enjoy attention, but socializing drains me, especially when it lasts all day. I need regular time alone to recharge. Story 111. When I am quiet while hanging out with friends, it does not mean that I do not want to be there or that I want to leave. Story 112. I am quiet because I do not need to strike up a conversation with someone every time. If I do not talk, do not assume I am not social. I am social in the right circumstances. Story 113. If you go to a party and do everything right socially but still think about everything you might have said that could make a stranger dislike you, such as a joke that may or may not have landed or a song you chose, it sucks. Story 114. I need a warning before social activities so I have time to build up energy. Every time my phone rings, I look at it as if a kidnapper is calling. Do we have to go somewhere to hang out? Story 115. My social battery exists. It is just easier to drain than my teenage self on the internet. Story 116. That we are shy. Hours ago, I gave a eulogy in front of 100 people. I felt really comfortable and made the crowd laugh 5 or 6 times. I still would have preferred not to do it. It was for my father and I felt obligated. I went to bed at 8:30 in the evening. Story 117. Being silent with another person in the room is normal. No, I do not hate you. Story 118. If I do not want to hang out, it is not an insult. I am aware that extroverts want to socialize, but are they aware that people who lean toward introversion do not always want to participate? Story 119. Please go away. We do not have social time together unless it is pre-planned. Story 120. Parties are generally not a relaxing place for me. I am not a cold person without feelings. I just struggle to express myself. Story 121. I'm not antisocial. I'm still very social at gatherings, but I need time to recharge away from people afterward. I have built up my social battery over time, but it still drains during events. My extrovert friends are the opposite. They recharge from socializing. Story 122. It is often not that we dislike other people, but that we dislike ourselves when we are around them. Story 123. People sometimes need to stop talking. Silence is not bad. I cannot think if I have to listen. Story 124. That silence isn't awkward for us. It's actually comfortable. We don't need to fill every moment with conversation. Needing alone time doesn't mean we are upset or do not like you. Social interaction, even when enjoyable, can be draining, and we need time to recharge. It's nothing personal. Story 125. Nothing is wrong with me until you ask. Just mind your own business. Story 126. I'm not lonely. when sitting at a table by myself on my lunch break. And the book I'm reading is not a safety blanket to make me feel better. Sometimes people sit by themselves on purpose. However, I do think it's good for society as a whole when people err on the side of inclusion. I'd rather have my peace disturbed than discourage someone from being friendly and inclusive. But damn, it's deflating to finally have half an hour to myself away from work, only to have someone start a conversation that requires me to engage. Story 127. If you're extroverted and have attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, for the love of fucking God, stop poking people or chirping at them if they have asked you to stop or have not shown interest. I have one coworker who always does this, and it makes me literally want to die. It ruins my entire mood. Just fucking stop. Story 128. It is not personal. I need to schedule time to be alone because it is a need for me, not because I did not enjoy hanging out. Stop. Story 129. Not talking to many people or being in large groups does not mean I am lacking anything. Laughing out loud. Story 130. That I am not matching your high energy does not mean I am angry, antisocial, or a wallflower. It actually has nothing to do with you. Story 131. People think I'm shy, angry, or sad when I don't speak. But the truth is I simply have nothing to say. Let's normalize staying quiet when you have nothing to say. I feel comfortable with silence. It is not always awkward. Story 132. That I do not want to hang out right now does not mean I do not want to hang out ever. Story 133. I can be having the time of my life just sitting quietly next to you, sharing the same space. Story 134. Sometimes I don't want to fucking talk, respond, or even acknowledge you. Story 135. I have often been called arrogant, but in reality I do not know how to interact with people. Story 136. I'm not antisocial. I like people and enjoy spending time with them. People drain my emotional energy, which I replenish by being alone. Story 137. I am not shy. I just do not want to be rude and interrupt the conversation. Story 138. Being quiet around them does not necessarily mean I am annoyed. Story 139. That I am rude and have some sort of superiority complex. Story 140. Just because I am bubbly, chatty, or sociable does not mean I am an extrovert. Being an introvert means I get drained by socializing and recharge when I am alone. If my social battery is charged, I can be quite outgoing. Story 141. I am very talkative with people I am comfortable with, but only in short bursts. Once I start talking, I make a point of letting the other person speak. My fiancé teases me about being very high energy about something and then suddenly crashing. Story 142. People tend to think I am an asshole, but I do not mean to come across that way. Just because I cannot put my 2 cents in on certain opinions does not mean I am on either side. Sometimes I simply have nothing to say. Story 143. Being around people is exhausting. I need to recover afterward. Story 144. As for my wife, just because she is confident and social does not mean she wants to be. Conversely, I am an extrovert and quite shy. I struggle to socialize, but I enjoy it nevertheless. Between the two of us, we are an often misunderstood couple. Story 145. Some people don't understand that I don't feel like socializing all the time. I need to prepare myself before meeting someone. I won't automatically become friends with their friends, and I don't enjoy being around people for long periods. Story 146. Introverts do not need someone to help them come out of their shell. Story 147. People say I'm shy. That's true to some extent, but most of the time I just don't feel like talking. Story 148. Many people refuse to believe I am one because I talk in groups and am outgoing. I can turn that on when I want and keep it up for a few hours. I am happy when the party is over and I can go home, and I am equally happy alone in complete silence, doing crafts. Story 149. I'm not a social. I just don't like crowded spaces or groups where I don't know many people. Story 150. I am genuinely okay when staring off into space. It is grating how many times my spouse asks if I am okay when I am just sitting there. Story 151. Being an introvert does not mean you are shy. I have no social anxiety, but I quickly become exhausted around people. I miss social cues, have difficulty expressing interest in topics I do not care about, and I am probably thinking about what I would rather be doing. Story 152. I'm an introvert, not agoraphobic. I'm not crippled by the presence of other people. I can interact with strangers just fine. I don't particularly enjoy being around people I don't know. I enjoy my alone time, and after attending an event, I may need extra time alone to recharge my social batteries. Story 153. I think the feeling extroverts get when making a plan is the same as the feeling I get when a plan is canceled. Never feel bad about canceling plans with an introvert. Story 154. I am okay with group events, but I prefer to be on the outer perimeter, either just enjoying people watching or talking to someone like me so others do not try to pull me into the center. Story 155. Being social is exhausting. I have to remember names, recent events, sporting news, and whatever is trending on Reddit or YouTube. Our friend's current partner claims he takes his four-wheel drive vehicle off-road, but it is actually an all-wheel drive vehicle and he does not understand why he needs to deflate the tires. Another friend cannot understand why he cannot beat a rice rocket with his charger. I explain mass and wind resistance, and he falls back to saying it is a 5.7-liter engine. Story 156. I like you. You are a good person, but you are exhausting. That is on me, not you. Story 157. I actually care about the games they play. I simply don't like many people, and when they do things like that, it proves what asses they are. Story 158. We can be outgoing, comfortable speaking in public, friendly and talkative, glad-handing people like a car salesperson. But it drains so much energy to act like that. Many people who know me think I am extroverted and cannot understand why I like to camp in the most remote wilderness I can find for 6 days at a time. Story 159. They always think I am arrogant, but I am too scared to even talk to them. Story 160. At school, college, and work, people are always surprised by how good I am at presenting, for example, giving a PowerPoint presentation. I can speak loudly, clearly, energetically, and in an easy-to-follow way. In my daily life, however, I am quiet, low energy, and fairly monotone. The difference is that when I present I am acting, but in everyday life I do not have the energy to act that way. Story 161. Some people do not like being hairstylists, but I love it because we do not have to talk the entire time. Story 162. Truly, how agitated and strange we can become if we do not have that downtime. Can be physically exhausting. Story 163. If I'm sitting in silence, they think I'm having an awful or boring time. It's not necessary to speak every second. Silence is amazing to me. Story 164. I am not shy. I am perfectly comfortable talking with other people when I find it appealing or when it is expected. I often prefer the silence of solitude and my own company. Think of introversion and extroversion and of being shy or not shy as a 2x2 box. Introverts can be shy and extroverts not, but they are different traits. I once knew a very shy extrovert. She always wanted to be around people but was terribly awkward and quiet because it was hard for her. That is the most painful of the four combinations. Story 165. When I say I do things alone, people usually say I'm sorry or that's sad. No, it's not. That's how I want it. I have so much fun and feel peaceful when I'm alone. Story 166. I'm a social person until my social battery runs out, then I get quiet. If I'm forced to stay out for any reason, I'll be there but quiet and disconnected from what is happening. Story 167. I am not antisocial. I am selectively social and do not require constant socialization to thrive. Story 168. When we're out in public and not merely observing, it's very exhausting to be on when all we want to do is sit in a corner. At work parties, I'm always the bartender. It's so much easier than chatting monotonously. Story 169. Being quiet doesn't mean I hate you. I just don't like talking to everyone all the time. Story 170. We do not want you to fix us. I'm not lonely. I like my alone time. Story 171. I am usually fine in social situations, but that does not mean I want to be there. I like people and enjoy spending time with them. I also really enjoy being alone. Story 172. Just because I'm not loudly expressive about everything doesn't mean that I don't care. I get so tired of hearing, "You are not expressive enough. We cannot tell if you like the thing we did or bought." For goodness sake, I said I'm happy and that I liked it. Why do I have to jump for joy and shout it from the rooftops? My friend is ecstatic about every gift she receives and then dumps it in the trash if she does not actually like it. Story 173. I am not shy or lacking in confidence. I just do not want to be around people. Story 174. Too often, people assume I am bitchy or snobby just because I do not want to talk to them. My social battery is drained. When I see them again and open up, they say they thought I was a bitch at first, but that I am actually really nice, laughing out loud. Story 175. This is a roundabout way to answer your question, but characterizing extroverts as having strong personalities implies that introverts have weak personalities. Story 176. That time during the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic, tragic deaths aside, was a fucking paradise. We could not go anywhere. Everything was closed. I was stuck at home. Sigh. I miss it. Story 177. Extroverts often claim to be introverted as if it were a badge of intelligence. This typically happens in group chats when making plans and showing no introverted tendencies. If you crave constant human connection and dislike silence, you are not an introvert. Story 178. We have friends with whom we feel safe going out in public anywhere, and others we don't. Story 179. Just because I'm quiet doesn't mean I'm in a bad mood or that you need to check on me. I don't want to talk, socialize, or interact with anyone for a little while. It isn't personal. Story 180. I like it when people do not talk to me. I love peace and silence. Story 181. I don't hate you. I'm not mad. This is just me at rest. I'll talk if I have something to say, and I can talk a lot when I'm interested. I'm just not going to tell you about my weekend because it's not important. Story 182. I enjoy my alone time, but I also enjoy hanging out with you. Story 183. I may sit in silence and seem to be ignoring the world, but actually I am enjoying spending time with you and listening to you. Some introverts enjoy socializing to a point, but I will not be the center of attention or a major talker. Story 184. Not about me specifically, but in general, being an introvert is not synonymous with being socially awkward. Story 185. They think I am judging them all the time when I just do not want to talk. Story 186. Being introverted does not mean I cannot or do not enjoy being around people or talking with them. It means my social battery runs out quickly, and some people drain it faster than others. Sometimes it is simply one of those days when I have not recharged properly. Story 187. Just because I will likely decline an invitation to a crowded event, or to any situation where my social energy will be drained quickly and I would leave early, does not mean I do not want to be invited. I still want to know people are thinking about me. Story 188. They think I do not spend time with them, but I simply do not want to spend time with anyone. It is not personal. Story 189. Extroverts may assume socializing is equally natural for everyone, but for introverts it takes more energy and intention. Social skills do not come as naturally or as intuitively for them. They are learned, not instinctive. Story 190. Definitely having energy all day long and being spontaneous. Story 191. They assume that I am shy and do not like to be around people. That is not true. I enjoy being around people, but it drains me and I need time to recover. Story 192. I don't get recharged from socializing. That is not to say I do not enjoy it, find value in it, or am bad at it. There are many activities you might enjoy or that are necessary that still leave you drained, like a hard workout. It can be good for you and make you feel better in the long term, but you do not necessarily leave feeling recharged. You often feel a mix of being completely drained and satisfied, and then you need downtime to recover or you risk overdoing it and injuring yourself. Socializing is the same. It may not cause physical injury, but it can leave you drained and overwhelmed, leading to burnout and anxiety. My mom is extremely extroverted and has always pushed me to go out and socialize constantly on weekends and days off, or even after school. As a kid, it was a nightmare. I used to cry in frustration, get overwhelmed, have meltdowns, and withdraw in social situations. I would get headaches and feel nauseous before and during events. A few years ago, I finally got through to her. I was juggling a lot and I had to be in social situations daily at work. She kept asking me to visit people or attend family functions when I had nothing left. I told her that socializing absolutely drained me. No matter how much I enjoyed it or loved the people, I was spending energy I did not have and starting each week more emotionally and mentally exhausted and less able to cope. I began to dread seeing her and the people I loved, and I became grumpy and snappy because I was not given downtime to recharge. She was shocked because, for her, seeing friends and going out is revitalizing and increases her mental energy. She feels bad that I spent years miserable and struggling at school from being so overwhelmed and overstimulated. She was trying to help, but she did not understand that needing alone time was not withdrawing or becoming antisocial. It was the opposite. I needed alone time so I would not become withdrawn and antisocial in social situations. My childhood became a self-feeding cycle, being forced into social situations to help me, withdrawing and melting down because I was so tired, dealing with the fallout, becoming more tired, finally getting downtime when I got sick, and then being forced into social situations again. Story 193. I'm not shy. If I have something interesting to say, I say it. Otherwise, you will not hear much from me. I have no problem introducing myself or discussing my interests at length, but I am not interested in making small talk or discussing your children. Story 194. I'm not shy at all. I will speak my mind with no issue. I just prefer being at home on my own when I can. Story 195. Sometimes we talk a lot about a subject we like and then suddenly shut down again. Story 196. I am not shy, not even a little. I code switch beautifully, so if I need to be on, I am. It is exhausting. The number of people who only see me at work when I am on and then claim I am not an introvert is hilarious. Yes, I am. Promise. Given my druthers, I would not see or talk to anyone, ever. Being alone is where I thrive and recharge. Story 197. That I'm aloof. No, not at all. I just don't have the energy or inclination to engage. Story 198. I am not mean or stuck up. I value one-on-one conversations with people I have things in common with, which can take time. I like my peace. I observe, listen, and decide whether someone and I would get along long before we actually talk. Story 199. That introvert and extrovert framework is a poor way to capture how people do things and their way of being. If people are becoming withdrawn around you, take the hint. You might be the problem. Story 200. I hate when someone assumes my free time is available for them. I also dislike being invited to do something only hours or minutes before it is supposed to happen. I need days' notice. I have kids and need to make sure they are taken care of before I leave the house. People often mistake my quietness for anger. Most of the time I am just in my head planning something I want to do, thinking about a book I am reading, or about my to-do list. I don't understand people who need to be the center of attention all the time or who talk constantly to hear themselves. Story 201. It has never crossed my mind that I am above them. I enjoy solitude and would rather spend my time doing something I find productive and enjoyable, which aligns with my daily and long-term goals. Story 202. I'm not a shut-in introvert. I like meeting people and having good conversations. I have a small social battery, and in settings I do not like or that are not conducive to socializing, such as loud clubs or parties where I do not know anyone, I do not feel incentivized to try to connect because it is unlikely to lead anywhere and it would be a waste of time and energy, in my opinion. If someone in the group is difficult and I have to moderate my behavior to remain civil, I avoid socializing. I have an uncle who supports Make America Great Again and whose perspective is uninformed, so everything I say gets filtered through that lens and interacting with him would just be miserable. Story 203. It is physically and mentally draining to socialize, so when I disappear, it is because I am about to crash, not because I dislike someone. Story 204. People always tell me they do not believe I am introverted because I am confident, charismatic, and seem extremely comfortable socially. I have to explain that I experience little to no social anxiety or shyness. I simply hate being around other people and love solitude. There is a correlation between social anxiety, shyness, and introversion, but not always. Some of us can fake it and be the belle of the ball when needed. Story 205. I am not a quiet person. I am just waiting for a better person to talk to. Story 206. It's not that I want to be alone. It's that I don't want draining, pointless conversations. I'm not an introvert around someone whose mind and ideas I feel passionate about, because those topics give me energy. One-on-one conversations are easier because they are more stable and less draining. So if I ask you to hang out, I mean you alone, not you with 3 friends. If I wanted to meet with a group, I would say so. I am also generally annoyed by the perception of introverts. Introversion and expressiveness are 2 different things. Introverts can be very expressive when they choose to be around others, and some extroverts are not very expressive but simply enjoy being in crowds or group settings because those situations give them energy. Being an extrovert does not simply mean someone likes to talk a lot. Story 207. They think I am shy and timid, then they are shocked when something happens. I have no problem standing up for myself or telling someone exactly why they are an idiot. Story 208. I prefer hanging out when there are at least 3 of us because I do not have to feel obligated to keep the conversation going. Story 209. I'm not shy and I don't need to leave my comfort zone. I avoid socializing not because I panic around other people, but because it makes me tired. Story 210. I do not know or care. They could learn many things if they would be quiet and listen. Story 211. Just because I prefer being alone doesn't mean I am lonely. My husband, my children, and my closest friends are introverts. We enjoy being in our own corners of the house doing our own things and keep frequent contact, but we do not see each other in person often. We prefer the quiet and coziness of home. Story 212. I heard a good description of introverts and extroverts that, for me, sums up the topic briefly. An introvert does not dislike being with others, but social interaction drains their energy. They recharge when alone. An extrovert does not dislike being alone, but solitude drains their energy. They recharge by being with other people. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.